Just checking in if Trustee Stanley and Trustee Phillips can hear us online.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
I'm just having a trustee trying to get online here. Hold on a second. Okay. I'd like to call this special Board of Trustees meeting to order. Thank you everyone for accommodating this meeting in replacement for last week's terrible snowstorm. I'm glad we're probably all thankful we didn't have to drive in that. So glad to see everyone here to date. I would like to ask if there's any memorials. Trustee Varan, or Director Varana, you had something?
I just wanted to add a special intention this evening before the prayer begins. We had the honor today of attending the installation of Bishop Joseph Dombrowski. It was a beautiful ceremony that we were able to attend with every clergy and religious of the Hamilton Diocese. So I'd just like to keep him, Bishop Dombrowski, and of course, Bishop Crosby in our prayers as he has handed over the reins to Bishop Dombrowski today. So just keeping them both in our prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Weiler.
Yeah, thank you, Chaircraft. Just ask you to keep my family in Ireland in your prayers. My aunt passed away about a week and a half ago. And so I was able to attend everything, as you know, virtually. So thankful for technology, but just again, keeping us in your prayers.
Thanks, Trustee Weiler. Okay, not seeing any others. I will move then to the prayer and I'll turn it over to Trustee Crisco.
Good evening, everyone. Please join me in the sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving God, as we begin this new semester, we thank you for the gift of learning, for the teachers who guide us, friends who walk alongside us, and opportunities that challenge us to grow. For those in their final semester of high school, we give special thanks. You have carried them through many years of learning, through successes and setbacks, through moments of confidence and moments of doubt.
As they stand at this threshold, give them the courage for what lies ahead, wisdom in the choices they must make, and patience when answers do not come quickly. For all students beginning this semester, grant focus, resilience, and a spirit of kindness towards themselves and towards others. May this be a time of growth, discovery, and purpose. We ask this in faith and hope. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Thank you very much. Moving now to the approval of the agenda. Can I get a mover of the agenda, please? Trustee Weiler, as seconded by Trustee Francis. Do we have consensus? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving to 1.4, declaration of pecuniary interest. Do we have any from this current meeting or from a previous meeting? Okay. Seeing none. Moving then to item 1.5, items for action arising from the in-camera meeting of Monday, February 2nd regarding infrastructure matters. Can I get a mover of that motion, please? Trustee Weiler? Oh, Trustee Stanley. Okay, do we have consensus? Okay, thank you very much. Moving then to the consent agenda. What I would like to ask is if we could approve the consent agenda as a group, excluding item 3.3, the governance committee minutes. We'll do that as a separate motion. Could I get a mover of approval of the consent agenda? Trustee Weiler and Trustee Cuff. I'm not sure who was first. Okay, do we have consensus? Okay. Thank you very much. Then I will do a motion for item 3.3, the governance committee minutes. Can I get a mover of that motion for approval? Trustee Weiler, Trustee Guerin. Okay, consensus among the governance committee? Okay, thank you very much. Moving now to item 5. 5.1, the annual report on properties and major construction projects.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so on the screens, you will see the report, which I'm sure you've all read in detail. I'm going to highlight, according to the director, in 3 minutes or less, what is in this report. Okay, she might give me some grace on that. So this report is provided to trustees, just more of information on the state of the nation as relates to major construction projects and capital approvals, and is for your information. It's not necessarily a modern report. It does feed into board policies 408 and 409, which are asset protection and financial conditions and activities. And we'll just start going down the list, and at the end, I'd be happy to answer any questions. The first one is our favorite school in Maryhill, St. Boniface. So this was declared surplus to the board's needs about 5 years ago. We're currently using it for storage for musical equipment and furniture and things like that. So it's actively being used and accessed, but it's not being obviously used as a school. We are reviewing options for that site, but there isn't anything that's imminent in terms of the change of ownership for that property for us. Going down to property acquisition, there are 3 on here which relate to the ever-growing Southwest Kitchener area. And so the first 2, Dune South and Rosenberg West, both of those are about 6 acres. And you should be seeing sooner than later for Dune South, a request for a purchase approval, and Rosenberg West will follow shortly thereafter. Baden is a project for which we already have funding for a small elementary school. We've been working with the developer on the site where we're supposed to build that school, and we learned just before Christmas that there may be a barrier to us acquiring the site for fair market value. And so we do have some irons in the fire in terms of a resolution for that, but we are anxious to move forward as the site will bring much needed relief for the community of Holy Family in New Hamburg. North Cambridge, you'll recall that one of our capital priorities in our most recent submission is for a school to be built on this, and this will provide much needed relief for St. Gabriel. That's almost 6 acres in the River Mill subdivision. We spoke at length in the fall around the requirement for a school in North Waterloo, and so that's the Beaver Creek area. And so we'll move forward with that as soon as that property is available. The Kitchener/South Waterloo Secondary School, so that's the 3rd Southwest Kitchener school that we'll be looking for, 70 to 20 acres. Of course, as you know, land is very tight generally within the boundaries of the region, but we believe we may be able to find a site to build an additional high school for that. And then the last one here is the Kitchener Central Core. And so we believe we'll have an update for you in the coming months with respect to moving forward with the site to construct a school in the downtown area because there is a lot of population down here. And many years ago, we got out of the business of having schools in the downtown core because there weren't many kids here. And so now we need to get back into it. So it'll be very exciting. Under major construction, the first one here is our Notre Dame project. And if trustees have an opportunity to drive down Fairway and take a look and see what that looks like, it's moved along very significantly, still on track, on schedule, and budget to open in September of this year. I would like to call your attention to, and I'll make the screen a little bit bigger. You'll see there are two lifts there. One has a green arm on it on the picture. And there's a person wearing yellow. I think that's Annalisa Verano that's on that, and she is caulking up one of the windows in preparation for the new installation. We're going to keep going down this list here. The last of our major construction projects that's listed here is our Southeast Galt School, which is our joint build with the public board. And so like the Notre Dame school project, it is moving along as expected within timelines and will open in September of this year. The additions, so we've received funding for a number of additions, and those you're very aware of, the newest of which is St. David School in Waterloo. There's a 17 classroom addition that's been approved, which is very good news. For the elementary school additions, we are waiting for the ministry to review our submissions because the budget was not what we expected it to be. And so we do need a bit of a helping hand there. So those are in progress. And then St. David was funded well, and we'll be able to move forward with that sooner than later. Madam Chair, that is all that's on the list. I'm happy to answer any questions from trustees about this material. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from trustees? I'm not seeing any online either. Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on then to item 5.2, estimates budget plan.
Thank you. So Laura Isaac is coming to the podium, and Laura will present to you the draft plan for the 26-27 school year budget, if you can imagine. So Laura, if you're good to go.
Yeah, so tonight, hard to believe that we are already thinking about planning for 26-27, but we are. So we have started our work already in January, and the budget will be approved or come to the trustees in June. So we do have a lot of work that we do up into that point. So we're just in the preliminary stages. We've just started gathering information. We don't have anything from the ministry yet, of course. We are hoping that we'll get it around March, but we're always hopeful about this. And last time we didn't get it till the end of May. So that may alter our timelines as we have to accommodate their timelines, but it will still be due at the end of June. So the ministry doesn't provide much grace, unfortunately. So tonight is the first of the updates that we'll bring forward to the trustees monthly, just to let you know where our progress is and when we're on track. We are hoping to have a balanced budget internally by May 5th. So then at that point, we can start preparing our budget materials for the presentation on June 8th. We do hope to have the budget materials distributed, available to you by June 1st, so you can have a chance to review it before the meeting. And then you'll have a deliberation period up until June 21st. And then we'll have our budget approval on June 22nd and filed with the ministry on June 30th. So again, there's not much information that we know at this time. We've started our preliminary planning internally, and we'll wait for further instruction from the ministry. If there's any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from trustees? Okay. Seeing none and not seeing any online. Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on then to item 5.3, our NEF school listing update.
Sorry, Madam Chair, is it not FSL or did I miss?
No, those are.
So you get for now. Okay, so the RNEF update starts on page 29 of your agenda. This is a very brief report. Our new Chief Information Officer, Craig McIsaac, went through a listing which showed him that the schools that we have listed for funding related to the rural and northern education allocation, 2 of the 3 are closed, and I believe 1 of them is moved. So it's time to update the list. The list can only be updated by trustees' approval. The list doesn't increase the funding. However, what it does is it allows us to spend funding on the schools that we think are rural in nature and or that meet certain criteria. And so you'll see when you go down the report, previously we had St. Clement School in St. Clement, St. Boniface Maryhill, which we just spoke about, St. Agatha in St. Agatha, and then St. Bridget's School in Ayr. Those are what are on the list right now. What we'd like to do is we would like to change the list so it becomes St. Boniface in Breslau, Holy Family in New Hamburg, St. Clement in St. Clement, St. Teresa of Avila in Elmira, and finally St. Bridget's School in Ayr. So those are the communities that we would identify as rural and would be able to benefit from the allocation. The allocation for our school board is roughly $50,000 per year and primarily is used by information technology department to ensure that their technology is refreshed fairly regularly, more regularly than the urban schools. So Madam Chair, at the end of this report, there is a list of formal recommendations, and so those would be the ones that would be required to make these changes. So we'll give this information to the Ministry of Education if approved, and then they will update the list, and this will be updated for the next grants. That's when they release the list of names.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from trustees? No, not seeing any online. Okay, so then the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approves the following changes to the Waterloo Catholic District School Board's list of schools eligible to benefit from the RNEA grant. The removal of St. Boniface School in Maryhill as it is closed, removal of St. Agatha School in St. Agatha as it's closed, the addition of Holy Family School in New Hamburg as a large portion of the student population comes from rural communities, the addition of St. Boniface School in Breslau as it is the only school operated by WCDSB in that community, the addition of St. Teresa of Avila in Elmira as it is the only school operated by WCDSB in that community. Can I get a mover of that motion, please? Trustee Guerin. Trustee Stanley, did you put your hand? You had Trustee Stanley? Okay. Okay, Trustee Stanley seconded then. Do we have consensus? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Moving on now to the naming of the new Southeast Cambridge School.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, we have Superintendent Patrick Eby coming forward. We have been actively working in the process for naming our new joint school, Southeast Galt Joint School. So I'll turn it over to Superintendent Eby to lead us through the process that we followed.
Excellent. Good evening through you, Madam Chair. It's my honor and privilege to be part of the naming of this new school process in Southeast Galt. This is a joint project opening alongside the Waterloo Region District School Board on Wesley Boulevard. The school is set to open in September 2026 with an estimated 900 students, 519 from the WRDSB and 354 from the Waterloo Catholic District School Board. I'd like to share just a few highlights this evening. The boundaries of St. Vincent de Paul, St. Anne's, Cambridge, and Holy Spirit will all be feeding into through the boundary adjustment to the new school. We worked through the process as outlined in APF 013, naming of schools. Our membership committee includes our incoming principal, Gilda Johnstone, who is here today. Maybe just give a away. We're very excited to have Principal Johnstone as part of this project. Father Gary Schlack from St. Ambrose Parish, Richard Olson, our spiritual animator, John Murphy, religion and family life consultant, and myself as the chair of this committee. The list of 4 names were submitted by Director Verano on December 10th on behalf of the naming committee to His Excellency Bishop Crosby for consideration and endorsement. The following response was received from His Excellency on December 15th. Dear Ms. Verano, thank you for your letter December 10th regarding the newest Catholic elementary school for the Waterloo Catholic District School Board serving students from JK to grade 8 in September 2026. I happily endorse all 4 names you have presented for consideration: St. Carlo Acutis, St. Helen, St. John Henry Newman, and Guardian Angels. All 4 names are saints and worthy choices as the name for our new Catholic elementary school. May the Lord guide your selection. A survey was distributed on January the 5th, and it invited all school communities that were involved in this new school when it was open for consultation. We had 350, as you can see in the report, 350 responses received. It's 108 responses more than we received during the Holy Trinity consult that was conducted. So we had a great response. Guardian Angels Catholic Elementary School received 129 votes, representing 36.9% of the vote. St. Carlo Acutis Catholic Elementary School received 110 votes, representing 31.4%, which is a difference of 19 votes. This reflects the 5.5% difference between those two. Guardian Angels was identified through the community consult of the 3 schools as part of our policy recommendation as the favored choice. Based on past practice and the results, the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the recommendation of the naming committee, Guardian Angels Catholic Elementary School, as the name for the Southeast Galt Elementary School. The approved name would then be sent to the Minister's office as per Bill 33. I'd be pleased to answer any questions that the trustees may have at this time.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from trustees? Trustee Doherty Masters.
Thank you, Superintendent Eby, for the presentation. I did ask this question earlier, but I'm going to ask it again just
Please.
because others might be curious. I asked about the naming of the joint public school, if there was consultation with the public board in terms of naming, and kind of if you can elaborate on that a little bit, please.
Great. Thanks, Trustee Doherty Masters. Through you, Madam Chair. We are, at the same time as we're presenting this report tonight, the Waterloo Region District School Board is working through their naming process. We have worked alongside them and trying to consolidate timelines so that the names would be provided at the same time. They have identified the recommended name as Geenawind Public School, which means us, including you. And that was being presented this evening. We are then going to be providing those names to the ministry depending on the decision that comes from the trustee group tonight.
Oh, Trustee Cuff.
I have 2 questions. The first is why, I don't know how to phrase this, but why did we include guardian angels instead of like all saints? Like, you know, saint whatever to like 4 saint names. And then also I'd like to know the mascot because, you know,
Mascots are
though.
important, absolutely. Thank you for your question, Trustee Cuff. Through you, Madam Chair, Guardian Angels was chosen, and we had a conversation about this with our group. The summary that we've put together for this is that it symbolizes protection, guidance, and care, reminding us that school is a safe and nurturing place where every child is valued. The name reflects a mission to guide students with compassion and strong moral principles, helping them to grow into confident, responsible individuals. And you may recognize Guardian Angels was also part of the Holy Trinity naming process that happened last year. And I believe it finished in 3rd place last time. Holy Trinity, 2nd was Light of Christ, and then Guardian Angels was the 3rd. The mascot, to your second question, the mascot is going to be the halos. The halos. The halos.
Trustee Guerin.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I had some questions I shared with a couple of people. Number one, it wasn't an overwhelming like choice. So I kind of felt that perhaps I don't know if the committee would be open to having more conversation about it or just looking at some of the other names. I personally think that there's more potential for positive press and newsworthiness with the St. Carlo Acutis name. But I'm also thinking that now that we know the Genowood public naming, like us including you or we are together, maybe we should be looking at a name that is more aligned, like since it literally is a joint school. I was quickly looking things up there and with a little help of AI, it was suggesting Corpus Christi as an idea. So there's kind of the meaning of many members, one body, like kind of thematically along with that. But I know that's throwing something right into the mix. And I'm wondering, is there openness to having something that makes more sense as the two schools jointly together?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll respond to that. We are engaged in the process through the AP that we have followed for naming of all of our schools. And in this case, we did engage with the public board, but it was clear, I think, to both of us that these are two, although we are a joint facility and that we will have some joint and shared resources, we are two separate entities. We will be a Catholic school and on our side, and their side will be the public school. We will not be one facility. It'll be two separate schools and only with the shared space in the middle of the school. So it was really important to both of us that we had two separate identities. And so there was no conversation around what the name would be and that if we should align the name. We felt that it was important that we each engaged in separate process. And in our case, we followed our process. And, you know, in this case, that Corpus Christi is a fine name. It didn't come forward in this process. So I think that as the public board likely would not reconsider their process to align their name to ours, we may want to stick to the process that we have therein.
Any other comments from trustees? Trustee Cuff?
I agree with you, Trustee Guerin. I like St. Carlo more.
E. Stanley?
Just two comments. I actually am fine with Guardian Angels. I like it a lot, so that would be my vote. But number two, I do think the trustees should have greater input sooner in this process going forward, instead of just being presented with a list of names for approval. I really think it's such an important thing, and the ministry has identified that this is something that is really core to the jurisdiction of Catholic trustees. We should be consulted much earlier. So that's the only thing I will say. But that said, I am very pleased with Guardian Angels, and that would get my vote.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Oh, Trustee Sakura.
Can I be heard?
You can, you're heard.
Okay. Just I noticed at the beginning of the report the citations of Education Act and represents Paul's board.
Something happened there, Trustee Sakura. We could hear you and then you've dropped off. Trustee Sakura, you've dropped off. We can't hear you. Trustee Sakura, we couldn't hear you there. You just your beginning words. So are you going to try again or?
Yes. Can I be heard again?
We can hear you now.
Okay. At the start of this report, it references Board Policy 2004 consultation. the consultation policy is actually 2005. So was that the actual policy that was followed and reviewed? Was that heard?
Yes, that would be a typo then. That is the policy that we followed.
Okay.
Okay. If there are no other questions or comments, then the recommendation in front of us is that the Board of Trustees approve the recommendation of the naming committee, Guardian Angels Catholic Elementary School, to be the name of the Southeast Galda Elementary School. The approved name will then be sent to the Minister's office as per Bill 33. Is there a mover of that motion? Trustee Doherty Masters. Is there a seconder? Trustee Weiler. Do we have consensus? Okay, seeing head nods here, so that's great. So then, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on then to the new MYSP presentation.
Through you, Madam Chair, I have our Senior Manager of Communications, Lema Salima, and we have our Research Coordinator, Courtney Brewer, coming forward this evening. We will be walking you through the new MYSP monitoring strategy. So I'll just begin with a few comments because they're setting up. You will see in front of you some of the visuals that they will have the pleasure of sharing with you momentarily. I'm just going to walk you through the process of what's taken place since the MYSP was approved. So the research team has been working very closely with our superintendents each week as we've been walking through a monitoring strategy through several stages of activity with ongoing input from the Executive Council weekly. So we conducted a gap analysis of what was needed, what we are looking at, some of the items that we monitored in our previous plan and items that we needed to continue to monitor into this plan and to create new indicators that would measure this level, what we wanted measured in each of our pillars. So we created some of the indicators. So we went through a process of indicator ideation. We created a draft indicators and monitoring strategy. So our operational goals and our indicator development. So at this point, we were really generating these ideas on what we could, we wanted to look at and measure for the next 5 years that would support the success of this plan. We went through several refinement stages and we were able to finalize, approve, and publish a monitoring strategy, which you're going to see momentarily. The next plan was this action planning, which is how we're going to now develop our plans to reach these goals, and then followed by a dashboard that would be created by our IT department and our research coordinator, and we would then be permeating the plan across our system. So I'll get into that a little bit more after the presentation from our team up front. So welcome.
Thank you, Annalisa and trustees. Thank you for having us. We're excited to share this with you. Okay, so just an overview of what we're about to present. So this is a bit of a sneak peek onto the graphics that you'll be seeing kind of sprinkled throughout the next presentation and the next 5 years. And so the purpose of this presentation is to share the branding, the visuals. The web page is linked here. We're not going to have time to go through it today, but it will be live as of tomorrow morning. And we're also going to go through the goals and indicators that align with each of our priorities. And so here is kind of a, I think you all got one of these as well, a printout, but this is our placemat. And so it's kind of the one-stop shop that shows you each of our priorities and our we statements that guide us. And then each of the goals that go under them and indicators are nestled under those. And so you'll see they're color coded. And we also created icons that align with each of our goals. So there's 4 for each there. And this is the process that Annalisa just walked us through. Just a visual representation of that. Is there anything else you want to add to this? Okay, so we're going to break it down icon by icon, and then based on that priority, Courtney will go ahead and actually tell you the research aspect of it. So from the communications aspect of it, the learning icon is essentially a book with rays emitting from it, and it's meant to symbolize growth, knowledge, and the light reflects possibility, curiosity, and the joy that emerges when learning is nurtured and shared, which is echoed in our we statement, which is we set high expectations and challenge learners.
All right, so our first strategic objective is to support multiple pathways and tools for success. You can see at the top of this slide, there is the corresponding icon that goes with it. And so the indicators that feed out of this objective are qualitative evidence for how the early years development instrument data is actioned to inform decisions, strengthen programming, and respond to the developmental needs of students in the early years. We're also looking at the percentage of students in each pathway or program. So for example, the dual credit programs and Project Search, the percentage of students indicating that they had pathway options to serve their needs for success, and the percentage of students graduating in 5 years according to our internal WCDSB metric. Then we move on to accelerate excellence and innovation while building future-ready skills. So our indicators here are the percentage of students at standard for the grade 3, 6, and 9 EQAO math assessments, the percentage of students at standard for the grade 3 and 6 EQAO reading, percentage of students at standard for the grade 3 and 6 EQAO writing, and the percentage of students who were successful in OSSLT. So you'll recall this is slightly different from the previous MYSP where we had all of EQAO lumped together. Now we're separating by subject area. Then if we look to our next indicator, we have evidence of meaningful participation in deep learning with equitable access to future-ready opportunities, including responsible use of artificial intelligence. Next, our strategic objective is to engage students as co-creators in their learning. The indicators for that are the percentage of students experiencing the Ontario Catholic School graduate expectations and the percentage of students reporting that they have opportunities to make choices about what they learn. And then we have transform learning through leadership and staff support and development. Our indicator here is the percentage of staff who believe their professional development has informed their practice.
So next is the serving icon. So what inspired this was we wanted an image that reflects service rooted in faith and equity, which emphasizes care, compassion, and a call to support others through actions guided by our Catholic social teachings. And this is echoed in our we statement, which is we listen and serve in education and faith.
All right, our indicators here are, for our first strategic objective, we have celebrate and promote our distinct Catholic identity. And our indicators here are qualitative evidence of celebrating and promoting Catholic identity. So we can see that in action. The percentage of staff with positive perceptions about adult faith formation. Then if we move on to develop faith and live gospel values, our indicator is, again, qualitative evidence of faith development and living gospel values. So some examples that we're excited to share would be vignettes sharing the tiny home takeout experience that our students participate in, and some of the student retreat experiences that are really pivotal to the Catholic education experience. Then if we look at strength and connections between home, school, and parish, our indicator here is the percentage of schools sharing parish communications. So specifically, we're looking at sharing the weekly bulletins from local churches through the digital platforms that we have. So right now that would be School Messenger. This is going to be a pilot project that begins with interested parishes, and the goal is to roll it out and expand upon it throughout the entire tenure of the MYSP. Next, we have connect faith formation to learning. Our indicator is the percentage of classrooms applying newly available resources with fidelity. And then we'll move on to belonging.
And this is our final pillar. And so it's depicted with having one person in the center with their arms around two other individuals, and there's an archway surrounding them. And the arch is meant to symbolize welcome and shelter. And the figures reflect inclusion, connection, and the strength found in community. And so we foster meaningful connections for students and staff is our guiding statement.
All right. For our strategic objectives here, we have create safe, welcoming environments that reflect our diversity. Our indicators are the percentage of the workforce meeting standard in the Guarding Minds at Work survey and the workforce census scan. We're also looking at the percentage of schools at standard for physical audits related to diversity and inclusion, paired with qualitative evidence of our physical spaces reflecting diversity within the WCDSB. Next, our strategic objective is to promote a sense of mattering and dignity. The indicators for this are the percentage of students who report feeling a sense of dignity and mattering on our school climate surveys, and the percentage of students reporting well-being on the Student Wellbeing Index, which is a subcategory of that. Next, we have foster equitable, inclusive, and barrier-free learning and work environments. So our indicator here is the percentage of staff reporting a barrier-free work environment on the WCDSB workforce census. As well, we're looking at a decreased percentage of students experiencing disproportionalities in the EQAO scores. Next, finally, we have engage families and build community partnerships. So our indicators here are the number of schools running a Catholic School Advisory Council sponsored event. And then we're also looking at the number of communications from central social media accounts that are tagged as belonging, and the proportion of positive sentiment versus negative sentiment news stories that feature contributions or responses from the WCDSB. And sorry, one thing that we did want to note is that we didn't speak to this as much at the beginning, but faith is really at the center of all of this. And so if you go to this image at the beginning, you'll see that the cross is in the middle and it permeates everything we do. We really felt with this plan that, for example, we're calling them strategic priorities. They're not pillars, so they don't operate in isolation. So if you think about how learning unfolds, faith really is guiding everything we do in the classroom. And so this strategic plan speaks to how faith is seen in everything that we do, not just in one separate siloed pillar. So this image sort of exemplifies that, but that was a big discussion as we went through the process that Annalisa told you about, that everything really did come back to what does this look like from a lens of being a Catholic institution.
Yeah, thank you very much. Are there questions from trustees? Trustee Weiler?
Thank you very much for the report. The whole package is certainly coming together, and thank you for showing us the monitoring strategy, the images, everything looks really great. Couple of questions. Well, maybe a comment first. I like that EQAO was built out on the indicators so that we can focus a little bit more on the specific items rather than as a whole. Just a question around sort of the monitoring strategy and the dashboard. So can you help me understand how many indicators might be new versus already exist? And then leaning into that, sort of what does the dashboard rollout look like in terms of cadence of updates and next steps?
I don't have the specifics on me right now, but we do have a documentation of where we have baseline data and what is new. And so, for example, EQAO, we do have baseline data that has always been collected. A lot of the qualitative aspects of the plan are new, and so we don't have baseline data for that. So anything related to the MY or the MDI with the well-being and the school climate, we would have baseline for that, and we're keeping those the same. I can provide you with sort of the nitty-gritty details if you would like after, but we do have the expanded version, which does include all of the baseline data, and that was something that we looked at when we were coming up with things. Is, you know, what can we continue to track and what does need to be reimagined, and so everyone here in this room did a lot of that work trying to share with me, you know, what has been serving and what hasn't been, and so that was heavily weighed out. And then in terms of the dashboard that is on for the next steps to take place, there will be when we do sort of decide the cadence of it, whether it's monthly or quarterly, we'll build it in so that it can be automatically refreshed. And again, when the dashboard does get refreshed, it's only new data coming in that gets updated. So once EQA was collected and loaded in the dashboard would refresh, but those numbers don't change until the next collection cycle. So even though there are many refresh cycles happening, the data isn't constantly changing.
I can just add one point too. So even though there are aspects of it that we're continuing in the collection because we have been collecting, all of our indicators are new. The data sources, some of the data sources are ones that we've used before, and so we'll continue to collect. So the hope is that I would bring a quarterly update to the Board of Trustees so that we can keep you up to speed as to how things are progressing once we get the dashboard in place. But I just wanted to commend this team, first of all, the research team and communications team. An enormous amount of work has gone into these graphics, which I think are absolutely stunning, especially the Venn diagram, which really came in at the last minute. That was the one that Lemma had showed you at the beginning. And so this really is learning, serving, belonging, and then we amplified the faith at the center. So just a way of being able to really demonstrate that it is really at the center of everything that we do. So we are really pleased with the graphics, and I just want to commend the team for the incredible amount of back and forth and work and just ensuring that it was absolutely perfect. So we're quite pleased with that. And I just wanted to make one more point about the next steps in terms of a committee work. So I am putting together, it's turning into a very large committee. So a lot of representation right across the system on how we are going to be able to, live this plan. The difference with this plan than our previous plan is that there's going to be a lot of qualitative opportunities. So really looking at things that are happening in the school and ways of being able to represent that work, and not just in data collection, but in actual qualitative collections as well. So we really wanted to get a committee together to determine the best way to be able to take this plan and permeate it right across the system so that all voices are heard in that as well. So
go ahead.
Thank you very much for the presentation and for this. Just not so much a question, but as a suggestion. Thank you very much for the placemats. I think that's something that we probably should have in front of us for a sort of an ongoing thing for our regular board meetings, just to have them front and center, especially since they're new, but it also is a good reminder for all trustees.
I had a question around how this design was conceived. Did you guys come up with it yourselves? Was there like a committee? Did you have an outside consultant? This is really well done.
Thank you. We work with a graphic designer who's actually a graduate of our system, Tom, and he does a lot of our logos and everything. So we just met with him a number of times to discuss the pillars as they were being developed, and then just kind of what they meant to us and how we could portray them. And then so much imagery came out of that we ended up thinking, why don't we also create icons for each of the objectives? Because they're all equally important, and they all feed into our vision and our role and what we're here for. And so we ended up with a lot more images than we thought we'd have, but we think it will help kind of visually tie everything together. And so this, what Annalisa was mentioning, was this combined image took the most time because we wanted to emphasize that faith is at the core of everything that we do, but also everything else is very important. And so kind of highlighting that, and then also we wanted to mirror the pastoral plan, which was stained glass, and they all work together and guide us in our everyday work. And so that was kind of where the stained glass theme came from. So a lot of conversations, a lot of feedback, and I'm happy to hear that you like it.
if you can just flip Lemma to the icons, so just to give trustees one more look at the smaller icons. So under each of the pillars, learning, for example, you'll see the small little icons before each bullet point, and those are the bullet points. So when you have an opportunity to take a look at the website when it goes live tomorrow, you'll be able to kind of look at those most closely. But they're so beautifully representative of exactly each pillar. So just it's something to take a moment to look at because it could easily be missed, but really, really beautiful.
Okay, any other questions from trustees? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much. Moving on then to 5.6, Director's Report.
For you, Madam Chair. This will be the Director's Report for January of 2026. So as you just heard, much of the month was committed to the multi-year strategic plan and the monitoring report. We spent quite a bit of time, intensive work on establishing these systems and getting all of the work in place so that we continue to move and advance the portfolio of work that will align with the multi-year strategic plan. School visits. So I have begun my second round of school visits. This round will be engaging in literacy and numeracy. So my first round of visits when I walked into the school was to really kind of understand the demographics of each of our schools, get to know our leaders and teachers and staff in each of our schools. This one was more around focusing on advancing our literacy and numeracy goals and aligning with our student achievement plans. So no extra work for our administrators because our superintendents will be providing questions and asking for plans for kind of next steps in data collection around our next steps for our schools. Mine is visible presence to be able to get into classrooms and to have teachers share things with me that they're doing along the lines of literacy and numeracy that they'd like to celebrate or like to bring attention to. So last week I did start my visits down in the Monsignor Doyle family of schools. I had the opportunity of being able to read to a kindergarten class, which was certainly a privilege, and join their crochet club for the lunch hour, which was also wonderful. But it was just wonderfully engaging just to talk to teachers and just the excitement around some of their strategies they're using in literacy, showing me their small groups, talking to me about students and what they're learning. And it was, you can certainly see a lot of excitement. It's certainly a shout out to our literacy support teachers. That certainly was coming through light and clear that they're really appreciating the support that they were receiving. Just a couple other highlights, our grade 8 math pathways night that we had for our secondary school, which focused on the GLS 1OM, just trying to get the information out there to parents on how to support their students moving into high school and the de-streamed math program. Our Career Conversations and Ontario Career Lab partnership continues, and that is the Ministry of Education funded our BEP with the monies for career conversations across the province. So shout out to Superintendent Eby for getting that off the ground and getting our information to our students in these labs. I did attend a couple of co-op job fairs. It was nice to see some trustees out there as well as our university co-op program culminating event. Just wanted to highlight our ongoing work with the Notre Dame and Southeast Galt, currently now Guardian Angels, joint school planning. So we meet bi-weekly to discuss plans across the entire system on how the school is going. So we talk about everything from planning, construction, IT, class, curriculum, you name it. So a lot of work that's been going into the planning to get these schools off the ground. The senior team portfolio update. So this is a little out of order on the report. Our senior team provides portfolio updates weekly at our academic council meetings. And so the idea here is to each superintendent to be able to share comprehensive portfolio updates. Some of them we share with you in our weekly update. So that we're all members of the team are able to know what is happening in individual portfolios. So in January, we focused on the faith portfolio, Indigenous and equity portfolio. So they were able to bring forward things that were happening specifically in those portfolios. In the faith portfolio, for example, we spoke about Bishop Dombrowski joining us and the diocese. In the Indigenous portfolio, just talked about our new secondary Indigenous student support teacher that's joining, what they will be doing at the school and their role, and just other conversations with equity around our talk and treats, which is with our Indigenous students from across the board, and coming in and sharing lived experiences with the committee. So just lots of really great work happening across all areas of our portfolios. And so it's just a great opportunity to be able to share with other members of the senior team. Very exciting news that we did receive funding for our expansion of St. David Catholic Secondary School, and we did have that presentation last Friday. Thanks to those who were able to join. Certainly was a celebration. It always is a celebration when we're able to provide an expansion project. As you heard earlier from Superintendent Maharaj, we have quite a few expansion projects, and this one in particular we were given full funding for right up front. So that certainly does ease that process. So we're certainly grateful to the government for that. Just around serving, so our tiny home takeout experience. So I've been able to attend a couple of times just to witness their students really engage with tiny home takeout. It's really inspiring to watch the students participate in preparing food that will be later served to the community. They talk about the unhoused. They talk about some of the housing insecurity, homelessness, and just that idea of service and justice for those in need. Our parish school collaboration working group is off the ground. So we've been working with a small subcommittee to advance the work in our synodal approach to this parish school collaboration. So this is bringing together our school administrators, parish priests, catechetical leaders, and diocesan representatives to explore our strategies for deepening the partnership. So our next session is going to be in April. It'll be quite a large event, but it's a real opportunity to sit with the parish priests, the administrators, the superintendents to talk about next steps on what is working well with the parish school relationships and what do we need to listen to and how things could be improved in those relationships. Under belonging, just human rights training for administrators. That was our part 2 session was this past Friday. Just ongoing partnerships. I met with Michael Ennis from YMCA Partnership to talk about our current relationships and a lot of the programs that we have running, after school programs, summer learning, childcare services. We just all the partnerships we have. It's just a really good opportunity to meet regularly to kind of ensure that that partnership continues. Our Project Search Family Information Night took place on January 21st. So that was learning about the program, what a day in the life of the intern looks like, and the opportunity to hear from past interns. So one of our students that was that has been part of Project Search is now gainfully employed at the hospital, which is very inspiring. In professional learning, I was able to attend the Catholic Trustees Seminar in Toronto, and also last week I did attend the CFO Code Conference with Superintendent Maharaj, and where we were able to work together with other board leaders in the ministry and learning about other ministry priorities and other conversations that we we're able to partake in around cybersecurity, attendance management, artificial intelligence, and our family support offices that we will be getting in place for September. Looking ahead, another busy month up ahead. So continuation of school visits, deepening of community partnerships, and our commitment to professional learning and growth as we build that monitoring dashboard, continue our portfolio development, and our ongoing engagement with our students, staff, families, and community partners. That is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from trustees? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to item 7.1, student trustee report.
Hello again, everyone. As echoed at the start of the meeting by everyone, I'm glad that we could all get together at a different day. I hope you guys enjoyed the extra sleep, as did I, especially for my chemistry exam coming up, so it was really good. So in January, primarily, everyone returned from winter break with optimism, looking forward to their exams. The main focus was student support as exams began, marking the conclusion of the first semester of the school year. A cool initiative that happened at Monsignor Doyle on January 14th was the Safe School Ambassador Study Habit Initiatives, in which the Monsignor Doyle SAC collaborated with the Safe School Ambassadors from Doyle, and they would collaborate with students across the school, in which students were able to offer some positive advice for anything related to study habits, exam cramming, stuff like that, so that it'd be on display and other students would see it as maybe like a little uplifting message going into their final culminatings and exams. Something that was consistent across all schools was different renditions of Cookies and Cram or Cocoa and Cram, which is a pretty cool event that usually happens around a week before exams, in which students are invited to come to the cafeteria or the chapel, in which many teachers from different course subjects would be there with a bunch of different course reviewing materials. There's a bunch of review, and students could come and ask the teachers questions. They could study with peers just for a little extra help and a little bit of motivation going into their final exams.
And then during the same week as Cookies and Cram, activities were held to recognize January as Mental Health Month and to support Bell Let's Talk Day by promoting stigma-free conversations around mental health at our schools, which is very important. Morning announcements featured school-appropriate mental health statistics and quotes, and students were also invited to wear a blue shirt with uniform bottoms on Wednesday to kind of show their support. Art and wellness stations were set up during lunch periods to encourage students to take a mental and tech break, and it overall just supported their mental well-being while preparing for exams. And then at the end of the month, St. David's held their annual semi-formal dance at Binghamton's. The student body had voted for a masquerade theme, which looked like it was a lot of fun. And it was executed and planned by the student council. The council members were responsible for decorating the venue, managing the event, and it did lead to a successful and enjoyable evening for all students. So it looked like it was a great time for everyone.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from trustees? Trustee Doherty Masters.
Thank you for your report. I always love to hear what's going on in the high schools. I just wondered if you could tell me a little bit more about the Bell Let's Talk Day. Were all 5 schools involved? How much does Bell support? Because when it first came out, there was hats, there was posters, there was all kinds of stuff. I'm just wondering what the level of support is right now and what the uptake is at each school.
Yeah, so it was across all 5 schools, and I do remember more in elementary schools getting like the hats and stuff. From what I saw in the co-president's reports, there was nothing directly from Bell. It was more just acknowledging that it was Bell Let's Talk Day. It was January Mental Health Month. It was happening during the exams. There wasn't any direct kind of support with that or any kind of connection to any other community leaders in the area who were also like involved in Bell Let's Talk Day. It was mostly just driven by students who wanted to commemorate the day and kind of support their fellow students.
Superintendent Merkel, did you want to add something?
Yes, thank you so much for updating on our mental health strategy and what it looked like in your schools. To your question, Trustee Doherty, we do not affiliate with Bell Let's Talk any longer. Yep, so we've completely moved away from that, and to the reference that we've just reminded students that this is what it used to be, but we no longer affiliate with a corporation.
Okay, any other questions from trustees? Trustee Weiler?
Thank you both for the report. I was just curious on what your sense was of sort of the exam period and exam time. I know that some of the younger secondary school students, it was probably some of the first time that many of them had taken sort of an exams and exam periods. And so I was just curious on, how you felt the energy or the stress was, or anything that needs additional support from your observation, just to get some feedback from you both.
So I do know, so grade 9 and 10 students do have exams now, and I do have a lot of younger friends and junior students I'm familiar with. Speaking to them, you know, I kind of, when I see them in passing, I'm like, hey, you got exams going on, how's that? A lot of them didn't seem too bothered by it. And that's not even just coming from overachieving students, you know, provincial standard students. They felt comfortable in the scenario, and I feel like they do really understand that's going to better prepare them for grades 11 and 12. From my own experience, you know, I've only taken exams in grade 11 and 12. I am a better student, but I felt like the time was pretty good. Like my chemistry exam, we were given 3 hours instead of 2. Teachers are really accommodating across all departments. They understand, they'll give you extra time. And then even some teachers, if you couldn't finish the exam on time, you could come and credit rescue and do some extra things. I didn't hear of like almost any students really failing. Teachers are really accommodating for credit rescue. And if you're not even putting in any effort, then you're going to fail. But if you're kind of leaning into that bit of support, you can pass your classes. It felt good though.
I was kind of the opposite. I noticed that my school teachers were not very lenient with allowing a little bit of extra time over unless you had a designated IEP. After speaking to some of my teachers who are teachers in the junior division, they noticed that their students were not as motivated for the exam, so they did not take it as seriously as some of the senior students did, knowing that their grades don't necessarily count toward any application, but they are still significant. The other thing was that in terms of preparation, a lot of students that I noticed did not feel prepared and were not really receiving support from their teachers just because teachers had, it seemed as if there was a lot of other background stuff going on in terms of like finishing marking that kind of took over some of the exam preparation time. That was just some of the things that I had heard from my experience.
Follow up. Thank you very much for the feedback. I'm a fan of having exams in grade 9 and 10. I think they're great sort of playing fields to learn how to do exams for when you get to the time when it really matters. So, but I was curious just to get some student feedback on your observations. So thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other questions from trustees. So thank you very much. Moving to item 7.2, governance recommendation. So that is on page 52 and 53 of your package. Governance committee worked through a number of changes that were provided to everyone. And they wanted to check if the will of the group might be to approve them as a group, with the exception of Board Policy 2004, Advocacy and Advertising. We do have a small amendment to make to that one. There was a typo. So throw that out for consideration to the group. Is someone willing to move the motions forward as a group? Any objection to that? Okay, I'm not hearing any objection. Can I get a mover then? That the Board of Trustees approve the amendments outlined in appendices A through J, excluding Board Policy 2004, Advocacy and Advertising, Appendix 1. We'll make a small tweak to that and then approve it separately. Trustee Cuff? And do I have a seconder? Trustee Weiler. Okay. Do we have consensus? Okay. Thank you very much. Great. Now, if we could go to the Board Policy 2004, which is on page 68. So in the second paragraph, we have written here and advocacy activities. So we want to just change that to say simply advocacy activities, just to correct the way that sentence reads. Is everyone okay with that, or comments? Okay, so then can I get a mover to approve the changes to number 2-004, advocacy and advertising, that we just discussed. Oh, Trustee Sikora, sorry, did you have something to say? Or you want to move that? Okay, we'll say that Trustee Sikora is moving this one. It was his catch on this amendment, so we'll go with him as the mover. Then I need a seconder. Trustee Weiler. Okay. Do we have consensus? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on then to OCSDA communications. The link is provided for you there. Trustee Verano already went over the most recent trustee conference that occurred, and then we have another one coming up before us, which I think information has been provided by Stephanie. So there's not much else to say in that regard at this point in time. I'll move on to item 8.2, Chair of the Board report. So I listed on page 72 the items I undertook in January, mostly meetings, the conference, several discussions. So unless there's any further questions on that, we'll keep rolling along here. Move on to item 10.1. Board Policy 1001 ends. So this was for all trustees to review. What I would be looking for here, this is for approval. So someone who has read this policy and would like to move that we are in compliance with the policy, and if they had any comments about if there's a need to review it. Can I get a mover of that motion? Okay. I read the policy then and would be prepared to move that we're in compliance with it. And I didn't feel that there was a need to review the policy. Can anyone second that for me? Oh, Trustee Doherty Masters. Okay. Do we have consensus? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 10.1.2, Board Policy 2006, Celebration of Excellence. This was assigned to Trustee Phillips for review.
I went through the policy and everything looks okay. We're in compliance. I would put it forward for review because I think it'd probably be appropriate to update to the new bishop, to the new pope for that award of excellence.
Okay, thank you very much. So you'd like to move the motion that that we are in compliance. Can I get a seconder of that motion? Trustee Cuff? Okay. Do we have consensus? Okay, thank you very much. The next item is 10.1.3, Board Policy 3002, Unity of Control. That was assigned to myself to review. I have reviewed the policy. It's very brief in nature, and I do feel that the policy is clear. So I didn't see a need to send this to governance at this time. And so I would recommend that we are in compliance with that and move the motion accordingly. Is there a seconder of this? Trustee Cuff, thank you. Do we have consensus? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to 10.2 OCSTA resolutions. Trustee Weiler, would you like to discuss?
So these are the resolutions that we need to put forward for approval tonight to go as part of the Waterloo Catholic District School Board submission to OCSTA for the AGM in April. So as you can see, we put forward 9. You may recall that 8 of them seems like a long time ago now, but we reviewed them at our committee of the whole. No, was it our committee of the whole? Yes, our committee of the whole. There were a few minor changes that people had suggested in that meeting. And then I sent an additional one out. So this was one that a number of trustees had made comment on at a previous board meeting. We had our mental health leads come up and give a presentation, and we asked for feedback on an OCSTA submission, if there would be anything that would be helpful. And at that time, a number of trustees were interested in putting that one forward. So the mental health lead role, which is resolution number 2, is the one that was added from the previous meeting. And it was simply to extend the mental health lead role to request OCSTA to petition the ministry to adjust that role to a full 12 months versus the 10 months today, to support mental health, not only across the school year, but into the summer, also including staff. So with that said, I would ask for the will of the group, whether we could approve these as a group, or if you would prefer to go through them separately. Each of them has a mover and a second, except for one, I believe, and that was the providing funding to staff developmental disabilities, the student transitions through Project Search, and Chair Kraft has offered to second that. All of the others have a mover and seconder to be put forward to the OCSTA. So how do people feel, if it's the will of the group, if you would be willing to approve them as a group? Any concerns?
I would be willing to do that. We had discussed them.
Yeah.
So unless there was something new to discuss, I don't see why we couldn't, if everyone is okay and comfortable with that. Trustee Phillips, did you have something?
I think it's worth seeing if we have a consensus for everything as a group, if that's okay. I'm okay with it as a group.
Yeah, for sure. We need consensus to proceed in that manner. Yep. Is there consensus to proceed with approving as a group? Yep. Okay, seeing agreement. Everybody's good? Okay, excellent.
Okay.
So
Thank you for that. I'll move then that the approve that the OCSTA resolutions detailed in 10.2 be approved and submitted to OCSTA as part of the resolution package from WCDSB for the AGM.
okay, great. Do we have a seconder? I can second that motion if no one. Trustee Cuff, you said? Okay, seconded by Trustee Cuff. Okay, do we have consensus? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, moving along to item 11.1.1, Board Policy 4-13, Leadership.
Apologies for those online. I'm just trying to share my screen. I might not be able to, so I'll have to direct you to the package. I don't know why it's. Try one more time. Okay, my apologies for that. So this is board policy 4013, leadership. So in these monitoring reports, the CEO has a responsibility to read the read the actual comments and the statements, and then the interpretation of the statements. So in the first one, the CEO shall not cause or allow leadership at the top levels of the organization that is unskilled, unethical, uninspiring, and that is inconsistent with our Catholic values. So the interpretation of that is that the CEO will ensure that our school and system leaders will be well prepared and qualified for the positions for which they hold responsibility. Additionally, the CEO will ensure that all practices of WCDSB leaders will be actions of integrity, aligned with our legal responsibilities, our Catholic values, and our social teachings. Finally, it suggests that the authenticity and actions taken by our leaders will inspire those they lead. So the evidence of that, and I'm going to refer back to a report that you heard in our last meeting that Superintendent Eby brought forward on our leadership strategy. So much of the evidence in this report is the evidence of our WCDSB fulsome leadership strategy. So leaders in our board are required to have achieved all qualifications or accreditations associated with their respective positions. The required qualifications are listed in all job postings within the board. And the courses required to attain this certification will always reflect teaching and learning containing the most recent legal responsibilities associated with various positions for which leadership is possible, regardless of the department and the organization. And as outlined in the board report, there's a well-developed and evolving leadership strategy open to all employees of the Waterloo Catholic District School Board. And this strategy addresses a wide variety of relevant and evolving topics grounded in Catholic values and teachings. We select the resources selected, the focus of discussions, and the speakers who present are continually examined and invited to reflect unique perspectives of the Catholic leadership framework and the distinct nature of our Catholic schools. Further, without limiting the scope of the foregoing, the CEO shall not fail to lead by example, so that the CEO, along with other system and school leaders, will model those behaviors and work habits that would engender confidence, and that nothing would be asked by employees that is not being modeled in the dedication and efforts of our WCDSB leaders. So the evidence of that, the CEO demonstrates a commitment to excellence by setting ambitious standards for both themselves and the organization. So clear goals are established. Senior leaders share progress indicators that reflect their own priorities. Accessibility remains a cornerstone of their leadership, and as the CEO and executive team maintain open lines of communication with departments, schools, and community partners. The CEO and the senior team are intentionally visible and engaged. By spending time in schools, departments, facilities, they reinforce a sense of connection and accountability. Feedback is actively sought and addressed, underscoring their dedication to continuous improvement. And on a broader scale, the CEO and senior team work diligently to strengthen the organization's influence across the province. We consistently exceed expectations, ensuring the system is represented at the forefront of current practices, innovative strategies, and emerging trends. Number two, address the future needs. The CEO shall address the future needs of the system with a succession plan for formal leaders in the organization. The interpretation of that is that the CEO would have systemic ways to ensure that leadership needs of the system are being proactively considered, and that new and aspiring leaders are being nurtured with opportunities to foster their skills and leadership attributes. The board's recent review of the leadership strategy showcases the collaborative vision driving leadership development across the system. So this work reflects the strategic direction set by the CEO and the superintendent responsible for leadership, while also incorporating perspectives from multiple stakeholders, including leadership strategy committees, human resources, academic council, and the senior manager of equity. Leadership growth is further supported through informal mentorship programming and succession planning. Superintendents and principals play an active role in identifying emerging talent and encouraging these individuals to engage in professional learning opportunities and prepare them for future leadership roles. Recruitment trends indicate strong interest in our leadership positions within the WCDSB, and our current number of applicants in the programs since its inception is quite high and is being very well received. The CEO shall positively manage change. The interpretation that the CEO will ensure practices that develop leaders who are nimble and responsive to an ever-changing educational landscape, while remaining anchored in Catholic values and Catholic leadership framework, with a focus on personal leadership resources that build adaptive capacity and support discernment. Evidence of that are the various programs that we offer. Specifically, we mentioned one of crucial conversations training. So providing leaders with the skills and foundation needed when navigating the realities of the school system and leadership positions. So all of our programs are developed and presented through the lens of our Catholic social teachings and are responsive to the needs of our leaders in the system. We support our school administrators and candidates in respective pools, providing them more training for school and board staff. And the work between the parish and the school collaboration will continue this year. And I believe that that's a really important step in bolstering that parish school and home relationship that impacts our schools as a leadership, as a school and system leaders. Innovation, foster innovation and creativity. The interpretation is the CEO will have processes and forums that allow our leaders to foster their aptitude and strength in transferable skills and in leading edge thinking that will serve our staff and students as future citizens and learners. So outlined in our strategy, we talked about innovation and deep learning that's supported for classroom teachers and school leadership. Our NTIP program works with our new teachers, supports their development and understanding of innovative practices and changing pedagogical approaches to teaching. In November, all of our teaching staff participated in an artificial intelligence professional learning session as part of the requirements of the Ministry of Education PA Day requirements. And number 5, the CEO will enlist others in creative and implementing a shared vision. The interpretation is the CEO will ensure that through his or her own actions, as well as those of system and school leaders, that there's a common understanding of the direction and purpose of the organization rooted in the common aspirational principles. The evidence of this is the CEO consistently reinforces the system's goals and aspirations rooted in its mission and vision in all communication. The new 5-year multi-year strategic plan outlined system pillars, goals and indicators which provide a very clear direction for all staff within the WCDSB. The pillars, goals and indicators will provide intentional and focused approaches for system-wide permeation alongside the pastoral plan and the equity action plan. And finally, number 6, the CEO will apply the guiding principles of holism, lifelong learning, equity, collaboration, excellence, and accountability, reflection, and reconciliation. The CEO interpretation is that the leadership of the system will reflect the characteristics of the Catholic graduate and the Catholic leadership framework in their word and lived example. The Catholic leadership, the evidence is the Catholic leadership framework is foundational to all leadership development. We use that as our guide, interview processes, portfolio development, program design across all initiatives. And I did outline a little bit of information about the process on preparing our leaders for that process. The director and the senior team model lead learnership through active participation in professional development. We complete the completion of annual work plans aligned to the MYSP and ongoing reflection and dialogue. Through these interconnected initiatives, WCDSB leaders embody the characteristics of the Ontario Catholic School graduate expectations and the Catholic leadership framework in both word and lived example. And if there's any questions, there is a recommendation at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from trustees? Not seeing any. Okay. So then the recommendation is that the board accept this report indicating compliance with policy 4013 leadership. Can I get a mover of that motion, please? Oh, trustee Sikora, can I get a seconder? Trustee Francis. Okay, do we have consensus? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to announcements. A few things coming up. Next week, we've got the Committee of the Whole, and then we're moving into Lenten activities, Shrove Tuesday, Ash Wednesday. There's an OCSDA ACO seminar coming up in Ottawa, which the student trustees will be attending. Okay, and then the student trustee election towards the end of the month. Okay, moving right along. I'm going to move to item 14.1. Guardian Minds is coming up for discussion or information, sorry, next meeting. Moving then to item 15, confirm decisions made tonight.
It was moved by trustee Weiler and seconded by trustee Francis that the agenda for Monday, February 2nd, 2026 be now approved, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Weiler and seconded by trustee Stanley that the items for action arising from the in-camera meeting of Monday, February 2nd, 2026 regarding infrastructure matters be now approved, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Weiler and seconded by trustee Cuff that the consent agenda, Board of Trustees, and the recommendations contained therein, excluding item 3.3, be now approved, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Weiler and seconded by trustee Guerin that the governance committee approve item 3.3 governance committee minutes of Monday, January 19th, 2026, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Guerin and seconded by trustee Stanley that the Board of Trustees approve the following changes to the Waterloo Catholic District School Board's list of schools eligible to benefit from the RNEA grant. The removal of St. Boniface School in Mary Hill as it is closed. The removal of St. Agatha School in St. Agatha as it is closed. The addition of Holy Family School in New Hamburg, as a large portion of the student population comes from rural communities. The addition of St. Boniface School in Breslau, as it is the only school operated by the WCDSB in that community. The addition of St. Teresa of Avila in Elmira, as it is the only school operated by WCDSB in that community, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Doherty Masters and seconded by trustee Weiler that the Board of Trustees approve the recommendation of the naming committee, Guardian Angels Catholic Elementary School, to be the name of the Southeast Galt Elementary School. The approved name will then be sent to the minister's office as per Bill 33, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Cuff and seconded by trustee Weiler that the Board of Trustees approve the amendments outlined in appendices A through J, excluding Board Policy 2004, Advocacy and Advertising, Appendix I, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Sikora and seconded by trustee Weiler that the Board of Trustees approve Board Policy 2004, Advocacy and Advertising, Appendix I, with a grammatical amendment to remove as in the second paragraph, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Kraft and seconded by trustee Doherty Masters that the Board of Trustees reviewed Board Policy 1001 ends and find that the board is in compliance, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Phillips and seconded by trustee Cuff that the Board of Trustees reviewed Board Policy 2006, Celebration of Excellence, and find that the board is in compliance, carried by consensus, with the recommendations to send it to the Governance Committee for an update. It was moved by trustee Kraft and seconded by trustee Cuff that the Board of Trustees reviewed Board Policy 3002, Unity of Control, and find that the board is in compliance, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Weiler and seconded by trustee Cuff that the Board of Trustees submit the following resolutions contained in the agenda of February 2nd, 2026 for consideration at the OCSTA AGM of May 1st, 2026, and that they be submitted by the deadline of February 6, 2026. 1, ensuring fiscal sustainability through inflation index school board funding. 2, full year funding of mental health lead role. 3, increased funding for devices used by students. 4, integrating summer special education supports into the core education fund. 5, providing funding to staff developmental disabilities student transitions project search. 6, support for permanent core funding of the special education needs transition navigator. 7, sustainable funding for short-term staffing pressures. 8, sustainable funding for student success and achievement graduation coaches core funding. 9, sustainable funding for student success and achievement math special assignment teachers, carried by consensus. It was moved by trustee Sikora and seconded by trustee Francis that the board accept this report indicating compliance with policy 4013 leadership, carried by consensus.
Thank you. Just one small thing. I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but I thought maybe in that amendment, small amendment for item 2-004, did you say we're changing the word as? It's actually an. The word that we're taking out is "an." And I think you said "as" in your note. So I just wanted to be precise because the word in the policy actually says "an." So we're just taking out "an" and just capitalizing advocacy. Okay. Okay. Then we will move to our closing prayer. O risen Lord, you've entrusted us with the responsibility to help form a new generation of disciples and apostles through the gift of our Catholic schools. As disciples of Christ, may we educate and nurture hope in all learners to realize their full potential to transform God's world. May our Catholic schools truly be at the heart of the community, fostering success for each by providing a place for all. May we and all whom we lead be discerning believers formed in the Catholic faith community, effective communicators, reflective and creative thinkers, self-directed, responsible lifelong learners, collaborative contributors, caring family members, and responsible citizens. Grant us the wisdom of your Spirit so that we might always be faithful to our responsibilities. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn? Trustee Cuff and Trustee Francis. Okay, do we have consensus? Okay, thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.